Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, Logan Silver family. It's your boy once again, and we are back after 6 months. I've been busy. What I've got here, I've got my sister, who is 17. 17, yeah?
Yeah.
She's 17. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Ashley. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay. Anyway, so we're gonna do a reaction video to Jordanpeterson's debate with Catherine. This video is quite old, but you know, I thought I'd invite my sister to give me her opinion and her reaction towards this famous interview that literally blew off. You know, it's a very famous Jordan's interview. So yeah, but anyways, I don't think she's ever heard of Jordanpeterson. But he's like a clinical psychiatrist. He used to work for Harvard University. So what he used to do was, in his lecture, he used to record himself lecturing students. But one video at the university that made him go viral, it's a video of him refusing to use pronouns for transgender people. Well, he wasn't refusing, basically, because he always likes to explain that it's not about him not wanting to address somebody by their chosen pronoun. It's basically about how the Canadian government was trying to make it a law for people to use the right pronoun towards somebody. But he according to him, he thinks that it's wrong when the government can dictate what you have to say. Do you get what I mean? It's not about him not wanting to calling it he, she, or she, they, and them. Do you get what I mean? So with him, it's like you can't make it a law. You basically dictating what I have to say, which is a bit absurd. So everybody took it out of context and say, oh, this professor at university, he doesn't want to address his students by their chosen pronoun. So people, you know how people on the internet, like, they took a little part of the video and then took it out of context. So yeah, but after that he went viral. You know, he's been invited to multiple interviews, and he's very, very, very intellectual. Like, if you listen to him talk. But anyways, I'm gonna press play. I'm talking too much. You get a glimpse of who he is through this interview.
Jordan Peterson, you said that men need to, quote, grow the hell up. Tell me why.
Well, because there's nothing uglier than an old infant. There's nothing good about it. People who don't grow up don't find the sort of meaning in...
Oh yeah, he also wrote a book called 12 Rules for Life.
Antidote to Chaos.
Antidote to Chaos. I actually bought that book. I don't know who took it. I need to figure out who's got it.
Their life that sustains them through difficult times, and they're certain to encounter difficult times. And they're left bitter and resentful and without purpose and adrift and hostile and resentful and vengeful and arrogant and deceitful and of no use to themselves and of no use to anyone else, and no partner for a woman, and there's nothing in it that's good.
So you say, I mean, that sounds pretty bad. You're saying there's a crisis of masculinity? I mean, what do you do about it?
You help people understand why it's necessary and important for them to grow up and adopt responsibility. Why that isn't a shake your finger and get your act together sort of thing. Why it's more like a delineation of the kind of destiny that makes life worth living. I've been telling young men, but it's not. I wasn't specifically aiming this message at young men to begin with. It just kind of turned out that way.
And it's mostly, you admit, it's mostly men listening. I mean, 90% of your audience is a man.
Well, it's about 80% on YouTube, which is YouTube is a male domain primarily. So it's hard to tell how much of it is because YouTube is male and how much of it is because of what I'm saying.
Did you know that?
That
YouTube is dominated by men.
I don't know that.
Like, it's basically, out of all the social media, men consume more of YouTube than anything else, than any other social media.
I mean, it makes sense, but I didn't know that.
But what I've been telling young men is that there's an actual reason why they need to grow up, which is that they have something to offer. You know, that people have within them this capacity to set the world straight, and that's necessary to manifest in the world, and that also doing so is where you find the meaning that sustains you in life.
So what's gone wrong then?
Oh God, all sorts of things have gone wrong. I don't think that young men hear words of encouragement. Some of them never in their entire lives, as far as I can tell. That's what they tell me. And the fact that the words that I've been speaking, the YouTube lectures that I've done and put online, for example, have had such a dramatic impact is an indication that young men are starving for this sort of message, because like, why in the world would they have to derive it from a lecture on YouTube? Now, they're not being taught that it's important to develop yourself.
But does it bother you that your audience is predominantly male? Isn't that a bit divisive?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's no more divisive than the fact that YouTube is primarily male and Tumblr is primarily female.
Isn't it?
Tumblr is primarily female.
But you're just saying that's the way it is.
Well, I'm not saying anything. It's just an observation that that's the way it is. There's plenty of women that are watching my lectures and coming to my talks and buying my books. It's just that the majority of them happen to be men.
What's in it for the women, though?
Well, what sort of partner do you want? You want an overgrown child? Or do you want someone to contend with that's going to help you and that
So
you
you're
can
saying
rely on?
women have some sort of duty to sort of help fix the crisis of masculinity?
It depends on what they want. No, I mean, it's exactly how I laid it out. Like, women deeply want men who are competent and powerful. And I don't mean power in that they can exert tyrannical control over others. That's not power. That's just corruption. Power is competence. And why in the world would you not want a competent partner? Well, I know why, actually. You can't dominate a competent partner. So if you want domination...
Want to dominate, is that what you're saying?
No, I'd say women who have had their relationships impaired, their relationships with men impaired, and who are afraid of such relationships will settle for a weak partner because they can dominate them. But it's a suboptimal solution.
Do you think that's what a lot of women are doing?
I think there's a substantial minority of women who do that.
Do you think, do you understand what's going on?
Yeah.
Do you think, obviously, from your age group, right, do you girls find guys that are more, how can I put, boys that are more manly, or boys that are more sensitive? Like, from your perspective, do you guys, which one do you guys find more attractive? Boys that are more radical in a sense of, bad boy, or a boy that has got the geek one at college or at school, whatever?
I mean, it's to an extent. I wouldn't say bad boy, but in terms of manly, you can take care of yourself. You can you're not too sensitive. I feel like there's, like I said, it's to an extent, because you can have someone who's dominant but geek, and you do know what I mean, someone who likes to read books, but at the same time he's not shy, he's not
he's got confidence.
He has confidence. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So I feel like, for me personally, I would probably go with the geek, only because I'm kind of like that. But I would say for other girls, they want bad boys.
The majority of your girls' age at college, they like bad boys.
They like bad boys, guys who are on roads, that are aggressive, that are mean, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
But me personally, don't come near me if you like that.
Try to speak up. I don't think they can hear you.
And I think it's very bad for them. They're very unhappy. It's very bad for their partners, although the partners get the advantage of not having to take any responsibility.
Bring it back a bit.
And dominate them. But it's a suboptimal solution.
Do you think that's what a lot of women are doing?
I think there's a substantial minority of women who do that. And I think it's very bad for them. They're very unhappy. It's very bad for their partners, although the partners get the advantage of not having to take any responsibility.
But what gives you the right to say that? I mean, maybe that's how women want their relationships, those women. I mean, you're making these vast generalizations.
I'm a clinical psychologist.
Right, so you're saying you've done your research and women are unhappy dominating men.
He's a clinical psychologist, not a psychiatrist.
Okay.
I think there's a difference, yeah.
I didn't say they were unhappy dominating men. I said it was a bad long-term solution.
Okay, you said it was
It's not
making
the
them
same
miserable.
thing. Yes, it is. And it depends on the time frame. I mean, there's intense pleasure in momentary domination. That's why people do it all the time. But it's no formula for a successful long-term relationship. That's reciprocal, right? Any long-term relationship is reciprocal, virtually by definition. So,
Let me put a quote to you from the book, where you say there are whole disciplines in universities forthrightly hostile towards men. These are the areas of study dominated by the postmodern neo-Marxist claim that Western culture in particular is an oppressive structure created by white men to dominate and exclude women. But then I want to put
minorities too dominate.
Okay, sure. But I want to put to you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example, the gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do the same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap.
Do you believe in gender pay gap? You know what that is?
The difference, yeah, between women and
Do you think it exists? Like women get paid less than men because they're women? Do you think it's got to do with gender?
No, I don't think it has to do with gender. I think it has to do with the jobs themselves. Because you have men who work in more dominant jobs, like construction, more serious jobs. You want to have women who want to work like that. You have women who are like in offices or like in retailing. So I feel like it's not to do with the gender themselves. Like, oh, you're getting paid less because you're a woman specifically.
Yeah.
I would say it just depends on the job, to be honest.
But do you think women, they want to, like in general, women, do you think you lot want to do those type of jobs? Say the jobs that you just mentioned, like construction and, working on the motorways and things like that at 3 a.m. in the morning. Like, do you think women actually want to do those jobs, or they do want to do those jobs, but men don't allow them or don't give them the opportunities to do that?
I think I don't think men give opportunities to do that, really. Because you can have women that apply to jobs like that, be like, no, you're a woman, do you know what I mean? This is a manly job. Like, it's a lot of carrying, a lot of heavy stuff. So I think that's...
Okay, so you're basically saying that men are the ones who prevent women from doing those type of jobs.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, if women were to do those type of jobs, if they had the opportunity to do those type of jobs, then they would be earning the same as
there
men.
wouldn't be a significant pay gap between both men and women.
Okay. I think he's about to explain
Why?
about this whole gender gap situation.
You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
But that's just not true, is it? I mean, that 9% pay gap, that's a gap between median hourly earnings between men and women.
But there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is gender, but it's not the only reason. Like, if you're a social scientist worth your salt, you never do a univariate analysis. Like, you say, well, women in aggregate are paid less than men. Okay, well, then we break it down by age, we break it down by occupation, we break it down by interest, we break it down by personality.
But you're saying basically it doesn't matter if women aren't getting to the top, because that's what's skewing that gender pay gap, isn't it? You're saying, well, that's just a fact of life. Women aren't necessarily going to get to the top.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
You're saying
I'm saying there are multiple reasons for it.
Yeah, but those reasons, why should women put up with those reasons? Why should women be content not to get to the top? I'm not saying that they should put up with it. I'm saying that the claim that the wage gap between men and women is only due to sex is wrong. And it is wrong. There's no doubt about that.
Do you think it's wrong when people have, like, say that the gender pay gap is based on gender, basically? Do you think it's wrong that people only look at that one perspective where, oh, women only get paid less because they're women?
I think it's wrong, yeah. I wouldn't say that's the only factor.
You wouldn't say it's the only factor?
Yeah.
The multivariate analysis have been done. So
well,
I can give you an
example.
example.
You keep on talking about multivariate analysis.
Let me give you an example.
I'm saying that 9% pay gap exists
Yeah.
That's a gap between men and women. I'm not saying why it exists, but it exists. Now,
Yeah, but
if
you
you're
have
a
to say
woman,
why
that
it
seems
exists.
pretty unfair.
You have to say why it exists.
But do you agree that it's unfair? If you're a woman,
Not necessarily.
and on average you're getting paid 9% less than a man, that's not fair, is it?
Her voice pisses me off. She's annoying.
It depends on why it's happening. I can give you an example. Okay, there's a personality trait known as agreeableness. Agreeable people are compassionate and polite. And agreeable people get paid less than less agreeable people for the same job. Women are more agreeable than men.
Again, a vast general.
Do you agree with that? Women are more agreeable than men.
I think so, yeah.
Do you know what he means by agreeable?
Like they agree to more things, like
Yeah.
they conform to it.
Yeah. Than men. Men are more likely to complain about something. Just complain in a sense of not agree. Like, okay, if I go to the shops, right, and they don't have a price on the bottle of water,
Okay.
and then they're charging me for £3, and I'll be like, listen, man, I'm not paying £3 for this.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And on the other way around, the woman will probably, you know.
Okay.
So he's saying if you're more agreeable, you're most likely to get paid less in the
Generalization. Some
It's not
women
a
are not more
generalization.
agreeable than
Yes,
men.
that's true, but that's right. And some women get paid more than men.
So you were saying that by and large, women are too agreeable to get the pay rises they deserve.
No, I'm saying that that's one component of a multivariate equation that predicts salary. It accounts for maybe 5% of the variance, something like that.
So surely
you
the
need about
answer-
we need about another 18 factors, one of which is gender. And there is prejudice, there's no doubt about that, but it accounts for a much smaller proportion of the variance in the pay gap than the radical feminists claim.
Okay, so rather than denying the pay gap exists, which is what you did at the beginning of this conversation, shouldn't you say to women, rather than being agreeable and not asking for a pay rise, go and ask for a pay rise. Make yourself disagreeable with your boss.
Oh, definitely, there's that. But I also didn't deny it existed. I denied it existed because of gender.
Okay.
See, because I'm very, very, very...
She's putting words in his mouth.
Yeah, she is. She keeps cutting him off as well.
I know.
Let him speak.
careful with my words.
So the pay gap exists, you accept that, but you're saying, I mean, the pay gap between men and women exists. You're saying it's not because of gender, it's because women are too agreeable to ask for pay rises. So
It's one of the...
He said there's multiple reasons. He's not saying it's specifically just because of that. Okay, he gave her two reasons so far.
Already, yeah.
One is because women are more agreeable, and second is because, yes, gender.
Prejudice,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But she's like, oh, you're saying that it's
denying
specifically
it.
because of this.
Right.
And he's like, mate, I didn't say
Yeah.
that. If you pay attention, she keeps saying, like, you saying. It's like putting words in his mouth.
reasons.
Okay, one of the reasons. So why not get them to ask for a pay rise?
I've
Wouldn't
done
be a
that.
fairer
I've done
way of
that
proceeding?
many, many times in my career.
And they
I've
just don't.
counseled. Oh, they do it all the time. You can. So one of the things that you do as a clinical psychologist is assertiveness training. So you might say, often you treat people for anxiety, you treat them for depression, and maybe the next most common category after that would be assertiveness training. And so I've had many women, extraordinarily competent women, in my clinical and consulting practice, and we put together strategies for their career development that involve continual pushing, competing for higher wages, and often tripled their wages within a 5-year period. Teaching
you
them how to
celebrate that?
negotiate. Of course.
So
Of
do
course.
you agree that you would be happy if that pay gap was eliminated completely?
It
Because
would
that's
depend.
all the radical feminists are saying.
It would depend on how it was eradicated and how the disappearance of it was measured.
And you were saying if
You
it's at
can't-
the
you
cost
can't.
of men, that's a problem.
Oh, there's all sorts of things that it could be at the cost of. It could even be at the cost of women's own interests. So,
Because they might not be happy if they get equal pay.
no, because it might interfere with other things that are causing the pay gap that women are choosing to do.
Like having children.
Well, or choosing careers that actually happen to be paid less, which women do a lot of.
But why shouldn't women have the right to choose not to have children, or the right to choose those demanding careers?
They do. They can. Yeah, that's fine.
But you're saying that makes them unhappy, by and large.
He's not
She
saying
didn't
that.
say
no.
that. What is she talking about? What?
So you're saying that? You know what I mean?
She's waffling.
I'm saying that no, I'm not saying that. I actually haven't said that so far.
You're
in the
saying it
program.
makes them miserable.
No, I
At the
said that
beginning.
what was making them miserable was having weak partners. That makes them miserable.
Right.
I would say that many women around the age of, I would say between 28 and 32, have a career family crisis that they have to deal with. And I think that's partly because of the foreshortened time frame that women have to contend with. Like, women have to get the major pieces of their life put together faster than men, which is also...
Have you ever heard of the saying that women mature faster than men?
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know why?
I feel like I do, but I don't think it's a stable reason as to why.
Okay. I think he's about to break it down.
also partly why men aren't under so much pressure to grow up. So because I would say that many women around the age of, I would say between 28 and 32, have a career family crisis that they have to deal with. And I think that's partly because of the foreshortened time frame that women have to contend with. Like, women have to get the major pieces of their life put together faster than men, which is also partly why men aren't under so much pressure to grow up. So because for the typical woman, she has to have her career and family in order pretty much by the time she's 35, because otherwise the options start to run out. And
do you agree with that?
I think so. By 35, probably.
Like, she needs to have her shit
Life
together,
all
like
together,
family,
kids and
everything.
By 35, I think so. Because after that, there's not much you can do.
Because he said the woman's biological clock runs out. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, in terms of having
mentality,
kids
yeah.
and everything. It's not to say that women by the age of 35 can't have kids, or by the age of 40 or even 50 can't have kids. It's just that it puts it. There's a higher chance of death, basically.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a higher chance of you having a difficult birth because of age.
Right.
You know, and that's why he said there's not. This is why men are not in such pressure by society to grow fast.
Yeah.
Because men's clock runs slower than women's.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So.
And so that puts a tremendous amount of stress on women, especially at the end of their 20s.
I think I take issue with the idea of the typical woman, because, you know, all women are different. And that's what I want to just put another quote to you from the book.
Well,
You
they're
say,
different in some ways and the same in others.
Like, do you guys, like, obviously your age group, especially the girls' age group, do you guys think about things like that?
Yeah, definitely. I want to get everything definitely way before 35. Not after that. I don't want to be 40 and having to worry about work. Oh, I need to apply for jobs, or like, oh, I need to find someone to have a family with. I want everything done by 30.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
okay, you say women become more vulnerable when they have children.
Oh, yes.
And you talked in one of your YouTube interviews about crazy harpy sisters. So, simple question. Is gender equality a myth in your view? Is that something that's just never going to happen?
It depends on what you mean by equality. You know,
Being
if you
treated
mean that
fairly,
men and women
getting the same opportunities?
fairly, we could get to a point where people were treated fairly or more fairly. I mean, people are treated pretty fairly in Western culture already, but we could.
But they're
improve
really
that.
not, though, are they? I mean, otherwise,
Well,
why would there only be 7 women running FTSE 100 companies in the UK? Why would there still be a pay gap, which we've
Oh, well,
discussed
that's
at
easy.
length?
It's easy
Why
to
are women
answer
at the
that
BBC saying that they're getting paid illegally less than men to do the same job?
Well,
That's not fair,
Well,
is
let's
it?
go to the first question. Those are complicated questions. Seven women. Repeat that one. There's
7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies in the UK.
Okay, well, the
I mean,
first
that's not
question
fair.
might be, why would you want to do that?
Well, why would a man want to do it?
Why would you want to do that?
Own
Like-
companies.
Sorry?
Own companies.
Not own companies, or just make it to the very top of your career.
To create a name for myself, to be up there, to be above. I want to say to be above men, but you know, to be up there,
And to earn.
to earn,
Okay.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. I think he's about to break it down as to why
They want to be up there.
why they shouldn't try to be up there.
Okay.
Repeat that one. There's
7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies in the UK.
Okay, well, the first
that's
question
not fair.
might be, why would you want to do that?
Well, why would a man want to do it? I mean, there's a lot of money, it's an interesting
there's a
job.
certain
You know?
number of men, although not that many, who are perfectly willing to sacrifice virtually all of their life to the pursuit of a high-end career. So they'll work. These are men that are very intelligent. They're usually very, very conscientious. They're very driven. They're very high energy. They're very healthy. And they're willing to work 70 or 80 hours a week, non-stop, specialized at one thing to get to the top.
So you're saying women are just more sensible. They don't want that because it's not a nice life.
I'm saying that's part of it, definitely. And so I work
So
for...
you don't think there are barriers in their way that prevent them getting to the top
Oh,
of
there are
those
some
companies?
barriers, yeah, like men, for example. I mean, to get to the top of any organization is an incredibly competitive enterprise. And the men that you're competing with are simply not going to roll over and say, please take the position.
So let me come back to my
absolute
question.
all-out warfare.
Is gender equality a myth?
So, did you understand the part where he said about why women shouldn't, not that they shouldn't, but why there are not many women out there?
Yeah, and explain the reasons why men are out there.
Yeah, and why
health
men
and
are out
stuff
there.
like that.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because men, like for women, like, would you want, okay, to get to that very, very, to the peak of the pyramid, like to get to the very top, you have to put in crazy hours.
Yeah.
Now, say for example, okay, you graduated, you got a family, you have kids, like, which one would you choose? Spend time with your kids and family, or work your ass off? Because if you're going for the top, right, it requires a lot of effort and hours, times,
Yeah.
competitions. You like, there's a lot of battles.
Yeah.
But what he's saying is that most women choose family.
Yeah. I personally would choose family. I can't lie.
Mm.
But do you know that there are women that, like, in today's age, you have girls, especially my age, they don't really want to have kids, and they want to be at the top. Like, they'll do anything they can to get at the top. Me personally, obviously, I want to have kids, but you know how women are like, oh, I don't want to have kids, and like, you know, saying that there's going to be a decline in birth rate because women don't want to have children. They just want to be up there. So
yeah, I heard that. I heard that recently, that a few years from now there's going to be a decline in birth rate. There is a decline in birth rate already, because Elon Musk, he was explaining that, you know, there's a decline in birth rate when you look at the nappies in the factories are producing more adult nappies than baby nappies.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So that tells you that there's less people being born.
Yeah.
But like for girls that, this is my personal opinion, for girls that, for example, there's this guy, he was saying that his grandma, I think she turned 90 years old, or 90 something, and then she had loads of kids.
Yeah.
And when she turned 90 years old, like about 100 and something people turned up for her birthday. And these are grandchildren, great grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
So it's like at the age of 90, she's not even lonely. It's like these
she
people.
has all those people with her.
So if you don't have kids and then you turn 90, no kids, right? And there's no point in you trying to
Work your way to the top.
work your way to the top without having kids. You can try and fight for the top, but it takes a lot of hard work. Women who are up there, they literally sometimes they sacrifice family over a career. There's this lady, Peterson, the lady was interviewing Peter, Jordanpeterson, and she said that she's glad that she hasn't got any kids because she sees what her friends are going through. And then Jordanpeterson broke it down for her. She said that one of the best investment a woman can do is to have a family, to have children, and then to die alone. For men, it's almost different, you know. But for a woman, it's like what's it called? And then after 6 years, not even after 6 years, I think after that interview, she actually went off and had kids.
Really?
Yeah. Because the way he broke it down, I don't know, but maybe we're gonna react to that video as well. But like the way he broke it down, he just killed it. Like she literally, she saw a different perspective of this whole idea of having a family and not having a family.
Right.
Yeah.
And she went to go have kids.
She went to have kids. She's married now. She's proper, like, she's,
Oh wow.
yeah, she's all settled and everything.
That's
But at the start, before she met him,
Yeah.
Peterson, she was just focused on her career,
Work and stuff like
work
that.
and everything, you know.
Right.
And like you said, there's a small percentage of men who are willing to do that, like
Yeah.
sacrifice, and they don't lose nothing.
Right.
They're willing to put their hours just to get to the top.
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean by the question. Men and women aren't the same, and they won't be the same. That doesn't mean they can't be treated fairly.
Is gender equality desirable?
If it means equality of outcome, then almost certainly it's undesirable. That's already been demonstrated in Scandinavia. Because in
What do you mean
Scandinavia,
by that? Equality of outcome is undesirable.
well, men and women won't sort themselves into the same categories if you leave them alone to do it off their own accord. I've already seen that in Scandinavia. It's 20 to 1
So-
female nurses to male, something like that. It might not be quite that extreme. And approximately the same male engineers to female engineers. And that's a consequence of the free choice of men and women.
Would you like to do it to engineer
No.
or a mechanic or become a mechanic?
No. I
Why
wouldn't.
not?
I just wouldn't.
Why?
Okay, I'm gonna speak for a majority of girls because they don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to put that much.
So you don't prefer
physical-
office jobs where
Yeah, you know, like
allows you to?
I guess more formal, if that makes sense. Like in a formal setting, I wouldn't want to be fixing cars or like engineering. Do you know what I mean?
But there are women engineers
Yeah.
where they only work in the office. They don't actually get their hands dirty.
If that's the case, then I don't mind. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do like domestic,
Okay.
like physical work like that.
Mm.
Would you want to be a nurse? Would you mind? Like, you know,
If I didn't have a choice, yes, but I wouldn't want to do it.
if you didn't have a choice.
If I didn't have a choice, like, oh, you have to be a nurse, then I would. But
Oh my goodness.
if I've got a choice, then I would choose something else.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, because he says that women are more interested in people,
Right.
and men are more interested in things.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more interested in the computer, or you know, get my hands
Yeah.
dirty.
Yeah.
Than, you know, a women are more interested in people.
Right.
And in the societies that have gone far,
If the world was to go back in time and restart again, and just, I think he's the one that said that, like, and let women and men, men and women to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Naturally, like, men are going to do the hard labor,
Yeah.
and women are going to do the nurturing part of life.
Yeah.
Like, this is without the government or anything like that. Like, if the world was to start again,
Yeah.
automatically, biologically, men will go this way and women will go this way.
Yeah.
You know.
farther than any other societies to make gender equality the purpose of the law. Those are ineradicable differences. You can eradicate them with tremendous social pressure and tyranny, but if you leave men and women to make their own choices, you will not get equal outcome.
Right, so you're saying that anyone who believes in equality, whether you call them feminists, call them whatever you want to call them, should basically give up because it ain't going to happen.
Only if they're aiming at equality of outcome.
So you're saying give people equality of opportunity,
saying-
that's fine.
Not only fine, it's eminently desirable for everyone, for individuals and for society.
But still women aren't going to make it. That's what you're really
It
saying.
depends on your measurement techniques. They're doing just fine in medicine. In fact, there are far more female physicians than there are male physicians. There are lots of disciplines that are absolutely dominated by women. Many disciplines, and they're doing great. So
Let me put something else to you from the book. You say the introduction of the equal pay for equal work argument immediately complicates even salary comparison beyond practicality for one simple reason. Who decides what work is equal? It's not possible. So the simple question is, do you believe in equal pay?
well, I made the argument there. It's like it depends on
So
who
you don't
defines
believe
it.
in equal pay?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Because a lot of people listening to you will just say, I mean, are we going back to the
That's
dark
because
ages
they're actually
here?
not listening. They're
I'm
just
listening very
projecting
carefully, and
what
I'm
they think.
hearing you basically saying women need to just accept they're never going to make it on equal
not what
terms,
he's saying,
equal
though.
outcomes is what how you defined it.
No, I
If
didn't
I
say
was
that.
a young
I said
woman
that equal.
watching that, I would go, well, I might as well just go and play with my Cindy dolls
I
and give
didn't
up
say
trying
that.
at school because I'm not going to get the top job I want. Because there's someone sitting there saying it's not possible.
I said that equal outcomes aren't desirable. That's what I said. It's a bad social goal. I didn't say that women shouldn't be striving for the top or anything like that, because I don't believe that for a second.
Striving for the top, but you're going to put all those hurdles in their way, as has been in their way for centuries, and that's fine. You're saying that's fine.
No, I really
the patriarchal system is just fine.
Silly. I do. I think that's silly. I really do. I mean, look.
What do you think of her? Like, do you think she's right? What she's saying?
No, I feel like she's trying to make arguments to answers that he's already made. Do you know what I mean? You can tell she's a very strong feminist. Like she's trying so hard. She's
trying to be right.
Yeah, but it's not making sense. Like he's already made his point, and she doesn't want to follow it.
I know. I think what's happening here, she's not really listening to what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know, she just wants to get her point across.
Right.
She's already. It's like, for example, she's already came into this interview with her mind made up, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not changing my mind.
Right. Don't know who made her mad.
Look at your situation. You're hardly unsuccessful.
Yeah, and I have battled quite hard to get where I've got to.
Good.
So that's okay. Battling is good. This is all about the
inevitable.
fight. But you talk about men fighting. Let me just put another thing to you from the book.
Why would you have to battle for a high quality position?
Exactly. Like.
Carry on.
Like, if you want to make it to the top, you have to battle for it.
Yeah.
You can't just, like, if I'm at the top and somebody's coming for my position, I'm gonna try my best for you.
Yeah.
It's hard work to get up there. Basically, what she's saying is men should just open the door and say, you know, I have my position.
Yeah.
And it's like when these guys or women who are at the top, they've got family to feed. You know.
Yeah.
So she's basically saying, like, why don't they make it easier for women?
No one makes it easier for men either. They still have to work just
That's
as
what I'm
hard.
saying.
Well, I notice in your book you talk about real conversations between men containing, quote, an underlying threat of physicality.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
What about real conversations between women? Is that something, or are we sort of too amenable and reasonable?
No, it's just that the domain of physical conflict is sort of off limits for you.
Well, you just said that I fought to get where I've got.
Yeah, but
what does that make me?
Well, I don't imagine that you. Yeah, to some degree, I suspect you're not very agreeable.
So that's the thing. Successful women, I'm not very agreeable.
Right. But I noticed that actually in this conversation.
She just made this.
Because that's what he was saying. Like, successful people they're not agreeable.
Right.
And the people who earn more, they're not agreeable.
Yeah.
And people who earn less, they're very agreeable.
Yeah.
And she just said, no, I'm not very agreeable, but she's very successful.
Yeah.
At least,
and I'm sure it served your career well.
Successful women, though, basically have to wear the trousers, in your view. They have to sort of become men to succeed, is what you're saying.
Well, if they're
I've had to fight to succeed,
if
therefore
they're going
I'm
to
an
compete
honorary
against
man.
men, certainly masculine traits are going to be helpful. I mean, one of the things I do in my counseling practice, for example, when I'm consulting with women who are trying to advance their careers, is to teach them how to negotiate and to be able to say no and to not be easily pushed around and to be formidable. And you need to, if you're going to be successful, you need to be smart, conscientious, and tough.
Well, here's a radical idea. Why don't the bosses the male bosses, shall we say, adopt some female traits so that women don't have to fight and get their sharp elbows out for the pay rises? It's just accepted if they're doing the same job, they get the same pay.
Well, I would say partly because it's not so easy to determine what constitutes the same job.
But that's because, arguably, there are still men dominating our industries, our society, and therefore they've dictated the terms for so long that women have to battle to be like the men.
No, it's not true. It's not true. So, for example, well, I can give you an example very quickly. So I worked with women who worked in high-powered law firms in Canada for about 15 years, and they were as competent and put together as anybody you would ever meet. And we were trying to figure out how to further their careers. And there was a huge debate in Canadian society at that point that was basically ran along the same lines as your argument, is that if the law firms didn't use these masculine criteria, then perhaps women would do better. But the market sets the damn game. It's like...
And the market is dominated by men.
No, it's not. It's not. The market is dominated by women. They make 80% of the consumer decisions. That's not the case at all.
If you're talking 80%. About...
It's crazy how she's just... pointing fingers at men, like, oh, this and that is because of men this, men that. Well, the market is dominated by women.
Right. She's not even giving statistics.
No, she's not. She's just going according to what she thinks,
Right.
and he's giving her stats
And facts.
and facts.
People who stay at home looking after children, by and large, they are still women. So they're going out doing the shopping. But that is changing.
They make all the
what I want to
consumer
ask
decisions.
You, okay, so
the
what I want to
market
ask
is
you-
driven by
okay,
women, not men.
Right.
Okay, and if you're a lawyer
And they
in
still
Canada,
pay more for the same sort of goods. That's been proven. That men, you buy a blue bicycle helmet, it's going to cost less than a pink one. Anyway, we'll come on to that.
partly because men are less agreeable. Right, so they won't put up with it.
I want to ask you, is it not desirable to have some of those female traits you're talking about? I'd say that's a generalization, but you've used the words female traits.
Won't put up with it.
I want to ask you, is it not desirable to have some of those female traits you're talking about? I'd say that's a generalization, but you've used the words female traits. Is it not desirable to have some of them at the top of business? I mean, maybe there wouldn't have
They
been
don't predict
a
success.
banking crisis.
They don't
that
predict
happened.
success in the workplace. The things that predict success in the workplace are intelligence and conscientiousness. Agreeableness negatively predicts success in the workplace. And
So you're
so does
saying
high
that-
negative emotion.
You're saying that women aren't intelligent enough to run these top companies?
No, I didn't say that at all.
You said that female traits don't predict success.
But I didn't say that
Intelligence and
intelligence wasn't. I didn't say that
do.
intelligence and conscientiousness
Well, you were saying that
weren't female
intelligence and
traits.
conscientious by implication are not female traits.
No.
I mean,
I'm not
that's very
saying that.
dangerous territory.
I'm not saying that at all.
Are women less
There's-
intelligent than men, by and large?
No, they're not. No, the data on that's pretty clear. The average IQ for a woman and the average IQ for a man is identical. There is some debate about the flatness of the distribution, which is something that James Damore pointed out, for example, in his memo, but there's no difference at all in general cognitive ability. There's no difference to speak of in conscientiousness. Women are a bit more orderly than men, and men are a little bit more industrious than women. But the difference isn't big. But
And there
that
can be
averages into
Plenty of men
conscientiousness.
who aren't necessarily as
Well, of
industrious.
course.
But we'll
Okay. But no,
female
but you
traits,
asked me
though,
a question.
why are they not...
Feminine traits,
Why
let's
are they
say.
not desirable at the top of... Feminine traits, why are they not desirable at the top of
It's
business?
hard to say. I'm just laying out the empirical evidence. Like we know the traits that predict success.
But we also know, because companies by and large have not been dominated by women over the centuries, we have nothing to compare it to. It's an
From Spotify's music streaming service
Bloody
to Shopify's
adverts.
e-commerce platform, we invest in
experiment.
True, and it could be the case that if companies modified their behavior and became more feminine, that they would be successful. But
You
there's
seem
no
doubtful about
evidence
that.
for it. I'm not neither doubtful nor non-doubtful. There's no evidence
So why
for
not
it.
give it a go as the radical
Because the evidence
feminists would
suggests,
say?
well, it's fine. If someone wants to start a company and make it more feminine and compassionate, let's say, and caring in its overall orientation towards its workers and towards the marketplace, then that's a perfectly reasonable experiment to run. My point is that there is no evidence that those traits predict success in the workplace. And there's
Because
plenty
it's
of
never
evidence.
been tried.
Well, that's not really the case. Women have been in the workplace for at least ever since I've been around, with representation of women in the workplace.
Do you know why women weren't allowed to vote? No, it's not that they weren't allowed to vote. Why women didn't vote back in the days?
Because the way they thought, the way they think,
What do you mean?
as in like they thought that men, you know how there was like a patriarchal system, men are more dominant, they're gonna want men to, choose who should lead the country instead of women. Or would it because they're being biased?
Well, you have a lot of people who complain about how women weren't allowed to vote back in the days, but that's not really the case. Apparently, the reason why women couldn't vote back then, they were actually given the choice to vote, but women chose not to. Most women chose not to because when you are allowed to vote back then, you would have the responsibility to go to war as well.
Oh.
Yeah, so women were like, no, I'm not.
Going to
If
war.
that's the option, then I don't want to vote.
Yeah.
Don't put me down for voting, because there's a lot of responsibilities that come with it that women back then weren't willing to do, apparently.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This has been about 50%. So we run the experiment for a fairly reasonable period of time, but not, certainly not for centuries.
Let me move on to another debate that's been very controversial for you. And this is, you got in trouble for refusing to call trans men and women by their preferred personal pronouns.
No,
I want to ask-
that's not actually true. I got in trouble because I said I would not follow the compelled speech dictates of the federal and provincial government, I actually never got in trouble for not calling anyone anything.
Right.
That didn't happen.
You wouldn't follow the change of law, which was designed
Not once
to
it was
outlaw
law.
discrimination.
No.
Why
Well,
should
that's what they said it was designed to do.
Okay, you cited freedom of speech in that. Why should...
Do you think people have the right to dictate what you say? Yeah.
No.
Why?
So like if I were to say, oh, you need to call me they them, and you don't follow that, I don't think that's right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's fair. No. Especially in terms like this.
Yeah.
I won't get too much into that, but they them.
Yeah.
Like.
I think it's a bit annoying how people like that have got the power to get you in trouble for not using the right pronoun.
Yeah.
Or forcing you to believe in something which you don't believe in.
Yeah.
It's like me forcing somebody to become a Christian.
That's true.
It's like, mate, I'm a Christian, so I want you to be Christian. I want you to believe in my beliefs.
Yeah. I blame social media for that.
Why do you blame social media?
Because social media, they like to portray only bad things or bad sides of certain things. So like, for example, like you forcing, or let's say you are talking to someone and encouraging them, or like talking about your beliefs. The social media will put like a certain perspective on that, only to make it seem like you're forcing someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I blame social media a lot, because they don't show everything.
Yeah, but did you know that social media and any search platform like Google or anything like that, or YouTube, apparently, if you change your location to, say, for example, London, did you know that the feed will be like the news or the Google news or the search on Google or YouTube will be things that they want to feed you? Knife crime, this and that.
Yeah.
But if you change your location to the West Midlands, Birmingham, they'll feed you something else.
Yeah, depending on the region that you're
Yeah,
at.
it's crazy.
It's weird.
And people think that what we're seeing on our social media here is exactly what's going on around the world, but it's not, apparently.
I saw that recently as well. I didn't know that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You're right.
So this is why, if we believe that using such pronoun or a pronoun that somebody wants you to use, we think it's wrong for somebody to force you to use a pronoun that you don't want to use.
Yeah.
But somebody else in a different city has got a different perspective. It's like, yeah, we should use the right pronoun. Maybe because their social media it's different.
Yeah.
They're being fed something else, you know, and out here we're being fed something else. So this is why, in terms of unity and people having the same perspective, it's different.
Yeah.
To freedom of speech, trump a trans person's right not to be offended.
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like, you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I have exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like, you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on.
So
and that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you, as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and... I'm just trying to work that out. I mean...
Ha, gotcha.
You have got me. I'm trying to work that through in my head. Yeah, it took a while.
It did, yeah.
It took a while. You have voluntarily come into this studio and agreed to be questioned.
Mm-hmm.
A trans person in your class has come to your class and said they want to be called...
That's never happened. And I would call them she.
So you would. So you've kind of changed your tune on that.
No, I said that right from the beginning. What I said at the beginning was that I was not going to cede the linguistic territory to radical leftists, regardless of whether or not it was put in law. That's what I said. And then the people who came after me said, oh, you must be transphobic and you mistreat a student in your class. It's like, I never mistreated a student in my class. I'm not transphobic, and that isn't what I said.
Well, except you've also called trans campaigners authoritarian, haven't you? I mean, isn't that...
Well, only in the broader context of my claims that radical leftist ideologues are authoritarian,
Yes,
which they are.
You're saying someone who's trying to work out their gender identity, who may well have struggled with that, had quite a
No
tough
doubt
time
they
over
struggled
the years.
with it, yeah.
You're comparing them with, Chairman Mao, who
No, just the
saw the
activists.
deaths of millions of people. Well,
Just the
even if the activists, they're trans people too. They have a right to say these things.
Yeah, but they don't have a
Isn't it
right to
grossly
speak for their whole
insensitive
community.
to compare them to Chairman Mao or, Pinochet, Augusto Pinochet. I mean, this is grossly insensitive.
No, I didn't compare them to Pinochet.
Well,
I did compare them to
he
Mao.
was an authoritarian.
He's a
wasn't he?
right-winger, though. I was comparing them to the left-wing totalitarians. And I
Okay,
do believe they are left-wing
Mao,
totalitarians.
Under Mao, millions of people died.
Right.
I mean, there's no comparison between
That's-
Mao and a trans activist, is there?
Why not?
Because trans
Do you agree with him? Like, there is a comparison. Okay, you might not know who Mao is, but let's speak on the concept of Hitler. He's basically comparing the Hitler with the transgender group activist.
Comparing them in terms of what, like?
In terms of their intentions, because what he's saying is, if you allow the transgender activists to have so much power, even dictate what you say,
Right.
the danger of that is can create what Hitler did, because that's how Hitler started as well,
Yeah.
or Mao or anything like that. So they will speak to the public, and then he would dictate what you can say or what you can do. So if you create a group identity,
Yeah.
right? Like, for example, we say we are a group of Christians, we believe in killing other people, right? So what's going to happen is, if you give me the power, if the government gives me the power, give us the power to dictate what people say, tomorrow could be something else, and then it's going to be something else,
Yeah.
and then it will begin to grow.
Yeah.
Do you get it? So, and then we're gonna have the power to even start a war,
Yeah.
or start crucifying people and killing people, because we've got the power to do that.
Yeah. I think if there's if they have similar intentions, then it's
Exactly.
comparable.
Yeah.
So you can compare them.
Yeah.
activists aren't killing millions of people.
The philosophy that's guiding their utterances is the same philosophy.
The consequences are...
Not yet.
You're saying that trans activists
No.
could lead to the deaths of millions of people. What
No,
they're
I'm saying that the philosophy that drives their utterances is the same philosophy that already has driven us to the deaths of millions of people.
Okay, tell us how that philosophy is in any way comparable.
Sure, that's no problem. The first thing is that the philosophy presumes that group identity is paramount. That's the fundamental philosophy that drove the Soviet Union and Maoist China. And it's the fundamental philosophy of the left-wing activists. It's identity politics. It doesn't matter who you are as an individual, it matters who you are in terms of your group identity.
You're just
That's
saying
murderous.
things, though, to provoke, aren't you? I mean,
Not
you
a
are a
bit.
provocateur.
I never said
You're like
anything.
the alt-right that you hate to be compared to. You want to stir things up.
I'm only a provocateur insofar as when I say what I believe to be true, it's provocative. I don't provoke. Maybe for
You don't
humor,
set out to
now and
provoke.
then. I'm not interested in provoking.
But what
Not in
about the thing
least.
about, fighting and the lob?
She's just switching it up. We were just talking about one thing, now she's talking about provoking.
I
What?
know. It's like every time he answers the question,
Yeah.
she tries to twist it and ask something else that
Yeah.
is going to contradict
Contradicts him.
whatever he just answered.
Right.
But she never gets to that point.
He just made a point, and then she started picking up things like, "Oh, you're provocative." It was just on a completely different topic. No.
I guess she wants him to basically flop
Yeah. She
in
flopped
every
once as
question.
well.
Yeah. But he's
No,
what's
he's
it called?
smart. He's very intelligent.
He's very smart, and
Yeah.
he's got his composure.
And he has his facts straight as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He hasn't twitched once.
Yeah.
He knows what he's talking about.
She does.
Lobster. Tell us about the lobster.
From Spotify's music streaming service to Shopify's
No, the
e-commerce
lobster.
platform.
It's a thing that it's a concept or an idea that a study that was done on lobsters that he mentioned in his book, where I forgot what he says, but he's going to explain a thing here.
Well, that's quite a segue. Well, the first chapter I have in my book is called stand up straight with your shoulders back. And it's an injunction to be combative, not least to further your career, let's say, but also to adopt a stance of ready engagement with the world and to reflect that in your posture. And the reason that I write about lobsters is because there's this idea that hierarchical structures are a sociological construct of the Western patriarchy. And that is so untrue that it's almost unbelievable. And I use the lobster as an example because the lobster, we divulged from lobsters in evolutionary history about 350 million years ago, common ancestor. And lobsters exist in hierarchies, and they have a nervous system attuned to the hierarchy. And that nervous system runs on serotonin, just like our nervous systems do. And the nervous system of the lobster and the human being is so similar that antidepressants work on lobsters. And it's part of my attempt to demonstrate that the idea of hierarchy has absolutely nothing to do with sociocultural construction, which it doesn't.
Let me just get this straight. You're saying that we should organise our societies along the lines of the lobsters?
I'm saying that it's inevitable that there will be continuity in the way that animals and human beings organize their structures. It's absolutely inevitable. And there is 1/3 of a billion years of evolutionary history behind that. Right? That's so long that 1/3 of a billion years ago, there weren't even trees. It's a long time. You have a mechanism in your brain that runs on serotonin that's similar to the lobster mechanism that tracks your status. And the higher your status, the better your emotions are regulated. So as your serotonin levels increase, you feel more positive emotion and less negative emotion.
So you're saying, like the lobsters, we're hardwired as men and women to do certain things, to sort of run along tram lines, and there's nothing we can do about it?
No, I'm not saying there's nothing we can do about it, because gay men continue to play chess. Your biological nature is somewhat like that, is it sets the rules of the game, but within those rules you have a lot of leeway. But the idea that, one thing we can't do is say that hierarchical organization is a consequence of the capitalist patriarchy. It's like, that's patently absurd. It's wrong. It's not a matter of opinion. It's seriously wrong.
Aren't you just whipping people up into a state of anger? And
not at all.
Divisions between men and women,
Mm-hmm.
you're stirring people up. Any critics of you online get absolutely lambasted by your followers.
Mm-hmm. And by me, generally.
Sorry, your critics get lambasted by you. I mean,
If
isn't
they're
that
academics.
irresponsible?
Not at all. If an academic is going to come after me and tell me that I'm not qualified and that I don't know what I'm talking about,
So you're not going to say to your
not
followers
say.
now, quit the abuse, quit the anger?
Well, we'd need some substantial examples of the abuse and the anger before I could detail that question.
There's a lot of it out there.
Let's take a more general perspective on that. So I've had 25,000 letters since June, something like that, from people who told me that I've brought them back from the brink of destruction. And so I'm perfectly willing to put that up against the rather vague accusations that my followers are making the lives of people that I've targeted miserable.
Jordanpeterson, thank you.
My pleasure. Nice talking with you.
She didn't have anything else to say.
So what do you think about the whole interview and her method of interviewing,
Yeah, I can't lie.
and what he said as well?
Some of the things that she was saying, I was agreeing on, but then when he spoke about statistics and he gave points, then my perspective switched. So I started understanding his view, and I started understanding the things that he was saying a bit better. So overall, I agree with everything that he said. He's made some good points, especially about
So
women.
there isn't anything you don't agree with him.
Not really, no. My knowledge isn't up to that standard to disagree with any statistics, like I said. But I do agree with.
I mean, he what's it called? He went in there ready.
You're right, definitely.
Like he was. He's a professional at what he does.
Yeah.
And he did his research, and he spent years and years studying his career, and when you have people arguing with him over, it's like arguing with say a doctor,
Right.
and then a mechanic wants to argue about medical things with the doctor. It doesn't make any sense,
Right. Because he's a psychologist.
He's a psychologist, and you basing your opinion on on emotions and experience, but him it's like there's facts, studies, everything. But yeah, anyways,
that was good. I like that.
yeah, he's very big right now. He went viral from the videos he used to post from his lecture, and this as well, this interview. The guy just blew up. He's everywhere now. He recently did an interview and he's already on 1 million in less than a week. You know, all his videos are like million upwards, 1 million upwards.
Like views and stuff.
Yeah, the guy is extremely intellectual and yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that's Jordanpeterson.
I don't remember that name. I thought he was a sociologist because he was talking about left wing and right wing, and she brought up Marxism as well.
Yeah. He understands well about sociology as well, you know. But yeah, Logan Silver family, we're done. Don't forget to subscribe. Say bye, Ashley.
Bye, guys.
Professional world.
Right.
Do you get what I mean? If you're less agreeable, you're most likely to earn more, because men are willing to negotiate and saying, you know, I'll quit this job, they're not paying me enough.